It's really not the weapons that are dangerous. It's the people you have to worry about.
Welcome to Heartland Arms. I'm Michael. Today we're going to go, of course, over where skill, safety, and training all come together. And for this episode, we're going to cover what is a semi-automatic weapon. Okay? So, we're going to go to the board. Here is what I have: two semi-automatic weapons. Now, I'm just having handguns here for now. We're going to get into semi-automatic rifles as well, but semi-automatic is very, very simple. So you've probably heard this term in the news. You've seen this on, at the gun shops. You've heard this at the range. But we're going to go through what semi-automatic really, really means. So let's go to the front camera so we can see where we're at here. Okay, so these are two firearms. Okay, now, of course, I always want to make sure. So that's unloaded. Now, this one has an external hammer. Okay, this one has an internal hammer. So I'm cleared. These are what a semi-automatic firearm is. So, semi-automatic is a gun that fires one shot per trigger pull, and then it will automatically load the next round. That is the basis of what a semi-automatic is. So when I pull this trigger, on this particular model, it's going to pull the slide back, load the next firearm from the magazine. So the magazine is empty, but that magazine is going to lock up because it's empty. That's also how you know it's empty as well. But it's going to lock it, so that magazine is going to feed the next round into the chamber, and then it's going to close, and it's ready to fire. Essentially that's what a semi-automatic is. Pull the trigger, it fires once. The gun will reload itself using the energy from the previous shot, and then you have to pull the trigger again for the next shot. So, semi-automatic, very, very simple to do. There's no cranking, there's no pumping, there's no pulling anything back in between shot. All you're doing is pulling the trigger to make a bullet fire. Okay? Very, very simple. So, I'm going to switch over to this one just because this one's a little bit bigger here, right? So, there's my trigger right here. You notice the triggers are different. This one is a little harder to see, but you see it right here. This right back here. So you pull this trigger, that gun will fire. The energy takes the slide that we've talked about before, kicks it back, and goes back forward. In this model, it'll kick the hammer back. In internal hammers, there's nothing internal. It automatically resets the internal mechanism. Okay? Now, when this slides back, it's going to eject the round. If it's a revolver, it's going to turn the cylinder. It automatically loads the next round from the magazine. And I don't have the magazine in this one now because I always do that. It's going to load the next round in there, and it's going to fire again. You have to pull the trigger for it to fire. Now, all this happens in a split second. It's really, really quick. And you could fire just as quick as you could pull the trigger. Okay? That's what it's semi-automatic. Okay? It's nothing manually to start the next round. Okay? Now, the gun does the loading for you, but you're still in control of each shot because it's not going to fire until you pull that trigger. It's not fully automatic. Fully automatic means I pull the trigger and it just does it on its own. It won't. That's a fully automatic. Most firearms that you're going to run into are going to be a semi-automatic for the most part. That's a lot of what modern firearms are. Okay? So, safety reminder, like always. Just because it's a semi-automatic doesn't mean that it won't fire quickly. It shoots fast. And with repeated trigger pulls, you can really get some lead down range. This is why safe handling is critical. You always, again, keep your finger off that trigger until you're ready to shoot. Always treat it like it's loaded. And if you're shooting, it likely is. You also have to know how to engage the safety. How to load, unload, kick out the magazine like that. Engage the safety. This one, the safety's back here. So this has the safety here. And that's part. This also has a dovetail safety, so there's a safety there as well. So that's what causes all of that. All right? So always keep an eye and make sure that you know how to handle the particular firearm that you're doing. Now, semi-automatic is a function, not a gun type, okay? These are two different types of firearms here. This is a double action. This is a single action, okay? So that they're two different types of firearms here. That's what the difference is, okay? So semi-automatic is a function, not a gun type, okay? You'll hear AR-15, oh, that's such a horrible weapon. All it is a semi-automatic. That firearm is really no different than these as far as the action goes. Now, what it means and the way it works, it applies differently to different styles, okay? So you have your handguns, like your 9mm. This is a 9mm. This is a 45. You have rifles. That's going to be like your AR-15s or some of your little 22 rifles that you're going to have. And then shotguns. Some hunting and tactical models will have those. They all have the one thing in common, okay? One shot, pull trigger once, one shot. It reloads itself and it readies to shoot again. It will not shoot again until you pull the trigger. That's just the way this works, okay? So, anytime you're going through any of these, a lot of people, you'll hear a lot of people say semi-automatic, and there's a big difference between semi-automatic and full automatic. A full automatic means you pull the trigger once, and it will cycle itself, so your firing mechanism in here, and I am safe. I'm going to pull the trigger. Okay, so I'm safe. If I'm pointing, I pull the trigger once. One bullet goes through. If this was a fully automatic, by keeping my finger on that trigger, it's going to keep cycling that firing pin. That firing pin is going to go back, and it's going to keep shooting bullets. Because it's a semi-automatic, once holding it like this isn't going to make another bullet go through. I have to release the trigger. It has to reset itself. The cycle will reset it, and then you pull the trigger again. The second bullet comes through each time I pull the trigger. Okay? It's also going to eject the round. Now, I always recommend wearing a hat when you're shooting, because when you're like this and you're shooting down range, those rounds generally will kick over here, but every once in a while I've had it like kick almost straight up and of course hit you right in the head. I also recommend wearing a long sleeve shirt. That's always recommended when you're shooting a firearm as well. Sometimes, I do it just so you don't have a piece, because when I'm shooting, my luck, that's going to sit right there. It's going to land just right, and it's going to start burning. If it lands on fabric, it'll most likely roll off. And I like to wear a hat when I'm shooting just so I don't get pelted with ammo. And if I'm on the range, the person next to me that's shooting isn't shooting, you know, and I have ammo, you know, his rounds hitting me in the head. They eject there. That's just kind of what happens. So you're in control of every shot that you're doing this. You have to pull that trigger. It's not just spray and pray. That's a full automatic. Okay? Keep in mind that semi-automatic is about a function, not the shape, the size, what it looks like. Does it look big and scary? Is it small and compact? It's not about that. Semi-automatic is just simply a function, not what determines the firearm. So keep that in mind. Semi-automatic comes in many, and we'll go to the chart here, and I'll move it over here for you. All these could be shot by a semi-automatic or other types. It depends on what you're shooting. If you have a semi-automatic, you have a lot of range that you could shoot. It's not like a semi-automatic shoots this type of bullet and only this type of bullet. That's not what a semi-automatic is, okay? So keep that in mind. It's just an action. It's not. It's actually a really safe action. I would recommend most people with a semi-automatic weapon. We're going to get into bolt action, lever action. We're going to get other different kind of actions that require you to do an action to load the next round. Those are simple and easy to do too. Don't get me wrong, I like some of those other actions as well. But in a self-defense situation, I want to say one of my go-tos really is a semi-automatic function, depending on the situation. You have to look at what is good for you, what is the best for you. Would this model be good for anybody and everybody? No. Do I like this? Yes, I like the functionality of this. I like how this works. If you notice, I'm showing firearms. Some people could see what type of firearms they are, but we're not getting into. It doesn't matter what the manufacturer is, really. It's basic functions. Okay. I would suggest you go find the research on the manufacturer that you want, that you like. You do your research. Anytime you're doing what's good for me isn't going to be good for you. Okay? And I'm not going to sit here and preach and say, this is the best kind of gun to use and you should always use a semi-automatic. Because I don't think that's true. I think it's a personal choice. I think each individual is different. I would say I find this really easy to rack and get the bullet loaded and get it ready to go for, to start with. But if I was teaching a kid who maybe doesn't have the grip strength that I do, I might want a different firearm or a different type of firearm that would be better to teach someone, or maybe an older person. I might want to say, hey, a revolver is a better option for you than something like this. It's all really your personal preference, okay? And that's why we always say it doesn't matter what your experience is, you want to keep learning. Okay, you also want to make sure you're staying safe, and you want to make sure you're ready, and you are understanding what you're capable of doing when you're dealing with a firearm. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow us. It's really hard to get these channels off the ground, so I really want to make sure that we educate and teach people proper firearm handling. and make sure that people are safe and accidents are down to a minimum. So, hope you like our show, and until next time, we'll see you on the next episode.